Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, hundreds of flights in the U.S. are suddenly grounded as the airspace over multiple Midwestern states is abruptly closed. Hundreds more flights diverted. The cause of the massive disruption, a power outage at an air traffic control facility in Minneapolis, a facility that manages radars and ATC frequencies. Also tonight, President Trump denies that the United States faces a critical shortage of missiles, the U.S. reportedly using up to two-thirds of its Patriot missiles and more than half of its long-range missile interceptors. But the president insists the U.S. has massive amounts of ammunition.
I'm Rachel Scott here at the White House, where we just learned about the dwindling supply of munitions and what the president had to say about it tonight.
A Republican-led Senate panel votes to hold Dr. Anthony Fauci in contempt of Congress after he took the fifth over COVID-related questions, saying he had answered most of them previously. The new outbreak linked to contaminated food. Hundreds of cases of salmonella in more than 24 states, now linked to jalapenos from 2 restaurant chains. It comes amid growing cases of that parasitic intestinal illness, sickening more than 22,000 nationwide. And we talked to the West Point professor who challenged the military academy's attempts to restrict the speech and academic freedom of civilian professors.
I thought that went too far, and in fact, it appears that that's the only restriction in possibly U.S. history in which one college has said that its professors must obtain approval before speaking or writing publicly.
Finally, legendary 4-time Academy Award-nominated actor Willem Dafoe is here in studio telling us about his new film titled Late Fame.
I was always the youngest person in every group, and then one day I became the oldest person. And that really happened to me. I mean, this movie is not about me, but there were a lot of points of reference that I felt deeply about.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We begin with the major outage in the country's air traffic control system today. Take a look at the map over the Midwest. It shows the skies mostly empty, hardly any flights over 9 states, hundreds of flights grounded or diverted after a power outage at a major air traffic control facility. Pilots and air traffic control losing radar and radio frequencies. You're about to hear the confusion between pilots and air traffic control. Also tonight, the mounting concerns regarding America's defensive missile stockpile after more than 5 months of war in Iran. President Trump is pushing back on the reports tonight, but acknowledging he'd like more. ABC's Rachel Scott is at the White House, and we will be with a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee about that. But first, we have team coverage of that major air traffic control breakdown. Let's get to Alex Perez at Chicago's O'Hare Airport.
Tonight, empty skies across 9 states, hundreds of flights unable to take off, others forced to divert after an outage at a major air traffic control facility that took out radar and air traffic control frequencies.
Ground stop for all departures out of Minneapolis currently, and expected update 15 after the next hour.
The facility involved controls air traffic across a massive 330,000 square mile swath of the Midwest. This flight-aware map tracking flights around the time of the shutdown, showing hardly any flights in that area.
You're one of our last arrivals. Wow.
Listen to the tower communications at Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport after they grounded all flights there.
What's going on with the airspace?
Center is shut down, completely shut down. I think they're having frequency and or radar issues, so that's what the issue is. And there, as of now, 0 updates.
Unnerving to hear that. Alex Perez joins us now. Alex, exactly what caused all this?
Well, Linsey, this is all still unfolding. The FAA says systems are back up and running, but what exactly triggered this massive outage remains under investigation. But there are delays, hundreds of delays that will be expected for the next several hours. Linsey?
All right, Alex Perez for us. Thanks so much, Alex. For more on this situation, we want to bring in ABC aviation contributor John Nance. John, this was not an outage at an airport. Explain what this air traffic control facility handles and why this outage had such wide-ranging effects.
Linsey, is a big deal. There's no two ways about it. When you're talking about the Air Route Traffic Control Center, which is what this was, Minneapolis ARTCC, that controls your flight when it's above 30,000 feet, moving back and forth across the country. And without the communications, without the radar, that's just a major problem. This is something that really is a result, in part, of whatever the exact cause today is, of a system that needs a lot of upgrade.
We know that some radars and radio frequencies went down. What sort of action do air traffic controllers immediately take when something like that happens?
There is a backup system and a plan to hand off the flights to air route traffic control, approach control and departure control facilities, put everybody on the ground as fast as possible and begin to sort it out. And every pilot up there is flying on a particular flight plan, so it's not a matter of instant chaos, but it's a matter of needing to get everybody in contact or on the ground.
And in the following hours, what sort of process do air traffic controllers go through to get everything back online?
Oh boy, that is a real tangle. They've got to not only account for flights that are very, very delayed and will be taken off in delays, they've got to account for putting all the info into airports like Chicago O'Hare, for instance, where there's a very tightly controlled amount of traffic. And when this sort of thing occurs, they're kind of rebuilding the system. It's fairly rapid, but that 90-minute cutout of communications will make probably a day or two of disruption before everybody get back to normal.
Now, this outage affected Minneapolis-St. Paul, which is a hub, as many know. What sort of ripple effect can an outage like this have?
From the airline's point of view, the ripple effect is monstrous because you've got crews in places that they really shouldn't be. In other words, you've got crew timeout problems. You've got people in places that they don't have the equipment to fly because that's someplace else. Anytime you put this system on the ground, any part of it for 90 minutes, you've got a ripple effect that will go on for at least a couple of days before the airlines are fully back to normal.
All right, John Nance, thank you so much for your insight. Really appreciate it, as always. Now to our other top story tonight. President Trump in the White House pushing back on reports America's defensive missile stockpile has been critically depleted by the war in Iran, along with reports of a blow-up between the president and Secretary Pete Hegseth. ABC's Rachel Scott reports from the White House.
Tonight, President Trump pushing back on reports the U.S. is running low on missiles, with the war he said would last 4 to 6 weeks, now well into its 6th month.
We're in very good shape. We have literally massive amounts of ammunition.
Still, sources tell ABC News President Trump expressed frustration when he convened his cabinet at Camp David last week.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the invitation, the opportunity to be here.
Behind closed doors, sources tell us the president voiced concerns the U.S. missile stockpile has been significantly depleted. According to one estimate, the war has used up 2/3 of America's Patriot missiles and more than half of its long-range missile interceptors. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has repeatedly insisted there's not a problem.
Our stockpiles are great, and they'll only get stronger.
But sources tell ABC News that when President Trump backed away from his recent threat to launch a massive attack on Iran, one factor he considered was warnings from his advisors that the missile stockpile was dwindling. Today, the president acknowledging he'd like more.
With that being said, we always want more. We have to have more.
And Rachel Scott joins us now from the White House. Rachel, the president has said that the military is getting new munitions on a daily basis. What can you tell us about what's involved in making some of the very specialized weapons like the Patriot missiles?
Yeah, well, it takes quite a long time, Lindsay. Each Patriot missile can take years to make, and they cost nearly $4 million each. They're assembled almost entirely by hand. Now, compare that to the drones that Iran has been using during this war. Those only cost about $35,000 each, Lindsay.
All right, quite a difference there. Rachel Scott for us. Thank you. And for more perspective, let's turn to Delaware's Democratic Senator Chris Coons. Senator, thank you so much for joining us. You've been raising concerns about the decreasing levels of munitions stockpiles since at least March. What do you think about where we are now?
I think we have a real challenge, and we've had this challenge for some time. Look, when we talk about our magazine depth, about the number of our sophisticated interceptor missiles, that problem has been exacerbated by the war of choice that President Trump launched 6 months ago with Iran. As Rachel just said correctly, we have very exquisite, very expensive munitions like the Patriot PAC-3 interceptor that can cost millions. And in the early days of the war against Iran, we were shooting down $35,000 drones with multi-million-dollar missiles. We do not have limitless stockpiles of some of our most advanced munitions. It takes a long time to make them. Last year, as the senior Democrat on defense appropriations, I worked in a bipartisan way to get the Pentagon more money and more authorities to begin to address this problem. But when President Trump chose to launch a war against Iran, it was entirely predictable that this problem would get worse and become potentially urgent.
President Trump, after denying that there were low stockpiles, admitted today that supplies of precision weapons were, in his words, a little bit tighter. Do you believe that the Pentagon or the White House has a handle on this issue?
Look, I have been given detailed briefings on what the current status is exactly of all these different munitions. The challenge is replacing them and transitioning towards less expensive, larger volume, easier to make munitions. We're not making that progress fast enough, and the war with Iran has only made the situation worse.
As you know, there's an emergency funding supplemental request of $21 billion to replenish the stockpile. Are you in favor of that request? And if so, are you concerned that the Senate won't vote on the funding before the summer recess?
We likely will not vote on that funding. I'm here in the Senate right now, and it's not on the list of things that we have ready to take up before we leave for August. It is on the things that we should be addressing. The larger issue, Linsey, is the lack of a clear plan for how the president and the secretary will bring this war with Iran to a close. Democrats do not want to authorize or fund the war with Iran, but we do want to fund our defense and support our troops. We need a path forward, and that means that the military and the Pentagon, the Secretary, and the White House have to come meet with us. They keep trying to pressure Republicans in the Senate to end the filibuster so they don't need to deal with us or work with us. But that's the Senate we serve in, and that's the situation we're in. We want to make sure our men and women are protected, they have what they need to fight, but not that we're going to commit to an endless war against Iran with no clear strategy for how to get out of this conflict.
Iran claims that it's close to formalizing a deal with Oman to fully reopen the Strait of Hormuz. How important is this development?
It's important, but remember, there was no comment there about whether they will be charging fees for ships to transit the strait. The Strait of Hormuz was open 6 months ago. There were no fees. And I'll remind you, there's no real progress towards what President Trump said were his main objectives for this war 6 months ago. Regime change? Well, Ayatollah 2.0 is in control, and so's the IRGC. Bringing to an end their support for proxies? Well, the Houthis are holding hostage shipping lanes through the Red Sea. Ending their ability to enrich uranium? We're no clearer and no closer to a resolution on that. So it's important to make progress on reopening the Strait of Hormuz, but at what cost?
Should the U.S. accept the agreement if it's finalized?
We should not accept an agreement that permanently puts in place Iranian control over what was previously a free and open international waterway. 20 to 30% of the world's fuel and fertilizer goes through this critical strait. And if the result of President Trump's war with Iran is that Iran is stronger, that's not a good outcome for us.
Senator Coons, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Tonight, the new outbreak linked to contaminated food is growing and now involves Major Change Chipotle and Qdoba. Hundreds of cases of salmonella in more than 24 states linked to jalapenos. One customer tonight says that she felt unconscious 3 days after eating a burrito bowl. Here's Elizabeth Schulze.
Tonight, two major foodborne illnesses growing across the country. The CDC reporting a salmonella outbreak linked to jalapenos served at Chipotle and Qdoba restaurants, reaching 27 states, with 345 people sickened and 36 hospitalized. One of them, a Minnesota woman, now suing Chipotle, claiming 3 days after she ate a burrito bowl, she lost consciousness and her temperature reached 102 degrees. She says she was diagnosed with sepsis from salmonella complications. Chipotle and Qdoba removing the jalapenos. The FDA says the peppers came from Mexico through Coast Citrus distributors and are now being recalled. It comes as the number of cyclosporiasis cases tops 22,000 nationwide. Many cases in 15 states tied to a deadly record outbreak linked to Taylor Farms iceberg lettuce from Mexico that's been voluntarily recalled.
It was the worst my stomach has ever ever been.
30-year-old Lucas Burnham says he had symptoms for nearly 2 months after eating lettuce at Taco Bell. Taco Bell has pulled the lettuce.
We are certainly glad to hear that news. Elizabeth joins us now. And Elizabeth, back to the salmonella outbreaks linked to Chipotle and Qdoba. What are health experts saying for how long it takes for those who are sickened to recover?
Yeah, Lindsay, most people do recover from salmonella within a week. There are more than 1 million cases on average in the U.S. per year. But people who are young or immunocompromised should see a doctor. Lindsay.
All right, Elizabeth Schulze for us. Thanks so much. Anthony Fauci could be facing a criminal charge after a Senate committee voted today to hold him in contempt of Congress after refusing to answer questions and instead invoking his Fifth Amendment right at a hearing last week. Our Jay O'Brien is on Capitol Hill tonight. So, Jay, what happens next here?
Lindsay, so the Senate Homeland Security Committee voting today to hold Dr. Anthony Fauci, the man millions of Americans turned to during the pandemic, in contempt of Congress because he, as you said, refused to answer the panel's questions, the Republican-led panel's questions last week, invoking his Fifth Amendment right more than 100 times. The argument from the Republican chairman of this panel, Rand Paul, is that Fauci is not eligible to do that because he received a full pardon from former President Biden. But Fauci says that Paul has a, quote, unhinged obsession with him and putting him behind bars. Democrats accuse Paul of trying to set Fauci up. The question here is, what will the Department of Justice do? We know that this matter has been now referred to the DOJ, Paul circumventing the typical Senate vote and just sending it over to the Department of Justice, but no word tonight on if they will seek criminal charges. Lindsay.
So still unclear. All right, Jay O'Brien for us on the Capitol. Thanks so much, Jay. After weeks of inpatient care, Senator Mitch McConnell released a statement today saying that he's been discharged from a rehab center and will continue his recovery from home. McConnell was hospitalized in June after a serious fall and has not been seen in the public since then. The senator said he'll maintain an intensive regimen of physical therapy and stay engaged with his staff. The 84-year-old Kentucky senator previously said he will not seek re-election. Turmoil just weeks before the Miss USA pageant. Miss North Carolina has been stripped of her crown amid reports of racist social media posts just now resurfacing. Crowned less than 2 months ago, she was set to compete on the national stage later this month. Here's our Rhiannon Alley.
Tonight, just weeks after being crowned, Miss North Carolina USA stripped of her title, with the Miss USA organization saying it does not tolerate racism, homophobia, transphobia, nor language that strips any person of their dignity, whoever they are. 27-year-old Brittany Boltonhouse was set to compete in the Miss USA pageant later this month.
My name is Brittany Alondra Boltonhouse.
Recently sharing on Facebook one of the reasons she signed up for the pageant.
I wanted to look back in my life and be like, I absolutely tried.
But tonight, Boltonhouse dethroned after what state contest organizers say was a thorough review of recently surfaced information, with Miss USA citing conduct over an extended period of time. State and national organizers did not say exactly what the conduct was, only stating a title here isn't a trinket. It's a position of trust extended by an organization and accepted by a woman who agrees to carry a standard in public. When that standard is broken, the title cannot continue as though nothing happened. Boltonhouse has not commented publicly, but the Miss USA organization says she took ownership and apologized for her behavior.
Boltonhouse has been replaced by Miss North Carolina USA runner-up Mila Hadley. Hadley will now compete at the 75th annual Miss USA pageant on August 27th. Lindsay?
All right, Rhiannon, thank you. Avocados in the U.S. could soon be in short supply after the U.S. announced that it was suspending its inspections in Mexico due to an undisclosed security concern. More than 80% of the avocados that are consumed in the U.S. come from Mexico. Mexican authorities say the pause in inspections was related to worker safety concerns. Drug cartels are known to operate in the region. Today, Mexico announced that it is deploying 1,500 National Guard members to the area. Kellogg announced today it will eliminate artificial colors from all of its cereals sooner than expected. The company says that it has identified natural fruit and vegetable-based juices that will give popular cereals like Fruit Loops and Apple Jacks their distinctive look instead of the man-made dyes. The replacement should be completed by the end of this year. It had previously announced the removal would be finished by the end of 2027. And still ahead, standing up for free speech in the classroom, even when that classroom belongs to the U.S. military. My conversation with a professor who fought to keep the dialogue flowing at West Point and won. And later, anybody got $5? We're going in for a pool. The Power Jackpot continues to grow after 3 months without a winner. How much is up for grabs in the next drawing? Plus, a very frightening moment caught on camera on Ohio Highway. How this person narrowly escaped the worst. Welcome back, everyone. A months-long legal battle over free speech and academic freedom at West Point Military Academy could finally be ending after the Pentagon agreed not to implement a policy restricting civilian professors from expressing opinions in the classroom and speaking publicly without permission. The policy was announced earlier last year and was quickly challenged by the Academy's longest-teaching law professor, Tim Bakken, calling it a violation of the First Amendment. And joining us now is Professor Bakken. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
So let's just start with initially what made you decide you wanted to challenge West Point's policy.
The policy prohibited professors at West Point, and it said that if they wanted to speak or write publicly, they had to obtain approval from military officer administrators at West Point. That's a very strong restriction on any person in society. It, first of all, diminishes people's freedom to be themselves, but secondly, in the academic setting, it prohibits people from speaking, college teachers, what they believe to be a search for the truth. I thought that went too far, and in fact, it appears that that's the only restriction in possibly U.S. history in which one college has said that its professors must obtain approval before speaking or writing publicly. And it seemed like a natural thing to do, to simply say that this was a mistake and it should be withdrawn. And I tried to confront it that way and ask that it be withdrawn. It was not withdrawn. And as a result, I asked a court to consider whether this was a constitutional violation of the First Amendment.
And what harm do you feel there is in limiting a professor such as yourself's opinion in what you express in a classroom?
We now know that academic freedom is a constitutional right. The Supreme Court has told us that, and other courts have told us that. But why is that a constitutional right? The primary reason why academic freedom in particular is a constitutional right is that we look to college teachers to be neutral people who will search for the truth. And that rule that I challenged was a rule that prohibited me. My specialties are constitutional law and criminal law, from simply talking about constitutional law and criminal law in the same way that the rule prohibited an English professor from talking about her poetry. That seemed to go too far. Yes, everybody has to have some kind of decorum in whatever profession he or she works, but this, because it's the responsibility. Society wants college teachers to search for truth. It did go too far, in my view.
You've been a professor at West Point for more than 20 years. You've also been rather critical of the U.S. military. Did you feel in some ways you were specifically targeted?
I never took anything personally that I've seen in the military. This is my 27th year working at West Point, and I have the greatest affection for the military and all the cadets that I've taught over all those years. I never looked at this as though it was something that was focused on me. It was a rule that was designed to stop people from speaking in the first place. That is, they weren't punished. They couldn't be punished for speaking about something that was improper, for example, even though I believe that's a constitutional right also. But they were prohibited from speaking in the first place.
Earlier this year, the judge who was working on the case temporarily paused it in the policy, saying for genuine strength and leadership to result, cadets must be exposed to a variety of viewpoints and trained to think critically about them. Is that how you see your role at West Point?
I see my role, number one, as participating in the preservation of national security for the United States, working for the Department of Defense and the Department of the Army, but in addition, for the United States Military Academy. I see that it's a cooperative enterprise that we're engaged in. All of us who are in this cooperative enterprise want the best for the United States. And certainly I consider myself equal to anyone else in wanting the best for the United States and the U.S. Military Academy and the Department of Defense. There might be a disagreement about how to go about that, but that's the number one thing. Beyond that, at West Point, we train and educate many of the officers who will become generals and lead our armies and our military in wars. That's a very serious endeavor.
Do you still want to teach cadets at West Point?
I have the same affection, which is the highest level that I've always had to teach the cadets at West Point. And in fact, about a week and a half from today, I'll start to do that again in the next semester.
And just lastly, Secretary Pete Hegseth has said numerous times that military schools like West Point have gotten away from their mission of making warriors and preparing cadets to be war fighters. What would be your response to him?
Secretary Hegseth is on the right track in terms of bringing reform to the military and even to the military academies. The point at which I would add something would be to say, throughout our history, since World War II, in Korea somewhat, but in Vietnam also, and Iraq and Afghanistan wars in addition, we have done very well. Our military has done very well. It is a lethal military, and it's won most of the tactical battles. But unfortunately, at least in my view, and I don't speak for the government at all, I'm here as a citizen, but in my view, as a citizen, there's a reason why we have lost those wars, and I think a lot of it comes down to faulty decision-making and lack of judgment.
Professor Bakken, we thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on the new book, Don't Say Sorry.
Thank you, Linsey.
Coming up, another advanced AI model goes rogue during testing and targets an unsuspected company through the internet. We'll have those details. And our prime focus tonight, the race to find faster and more sustainable ways to feed the growing global population, how one company is trying to make a difference. Welcome back to Prime. Here's a look at the stories making headlines right now. Major flight disruptions are causing travel chaos today across the Midwest after an outage in an air traffic control facility in Minneapolis that handles traffic across multiple states. Airports in the affected area were unable to have aircraft take off or land during the outage. President Trump is pushing back on reports that U.S. missile stockpiles are low as the war with Iran continues now into a 6-month. Sources say Trump expressed concern to Secretary Hegseth during a meeting at Camp David last week, and that when President Trump backed away from his recent threat to launch a massive attack on Iran, one factor he considered was warnings from his advisors that the missile stockpile was dwindling. Social media giant Meta announced that their AI model broke out of a testing environment and hacked another company. It's the third AI model in 2 weeks to hack another company during testing. OpenAI and Anthropic reported similar hacking situations. Meta says they are investigating the incident. And the Powerball jackpot continues to grow. It now stands at a whopping $856 million after no one won Wednesday night's grand prize. The jackpot has rolled over for 3 months without a winner. The next drawing will be Saturday night. Coming up, a Yankees fan now suing the team after an incident during a game. See what happened that led to her $10 million lawsuit. And next, we take you to the world's largest bug farm, why this facility is so important to feeding our growing planet after the break. Welcome back, everyone. As the world's population grows, companies around the world continue to look for ways to produce more food faster and more sustainably. Enter the French company InnovaFeed, doing just that with, of all things, the black soldier fly, a protein-rich super insect, if you will, that can convert waste into feed for livestock. Our Maggie Rulli visited the world's largest bug farm, home to 10 billion larvae, to find out how.
Just outside the baguette and croissant-filled streets of Paris, a very different kind of delicacy is being cooked up.
Welcome to the world's largest bug farm.
Yes, that's right. We're talking about bugs as food.
All right, this place might look like I'm in the middle of a creepy sci-fi movie, but actually, this place is trying to revolutionize the way we feed livestock, and they're doing it all with the simple fly. What got you first interested in this space of a bug farm?
We got interested in the fact that with the growing population, we need not only to produce more food, but to produce it more sustainably.
That's when Aude Guo, the co-founder of French company InnovaFeed, and her team discovered the black soldier fly. With similar amounts of protein as beef, this super insect can also convert waste into feed for livestock. And in doing so, they're disrupting the food industry, which Aude says accounts for almost 30% of the world's total CO2 emissions. She told us half the crops we produce and a third of the fish we catch every year are fed to the animals that we then eat.
That's why Ode wants to feed these animals insects instead, potentially slashing energy, emissions, and costs. I was ready to suit up and see the flies for myself.
All right, now it's time to go see these bugs.
Jeremy Ruthman is head of operations. He calls the 10 billion flies they grow here his babies.
We've been smelling insects the whole time, but now the new smell is larvae growth.
Yeah, it's a larvae growth,
It's potent.
Our first stop was to see where the flies are born.
All right, so right now we're heading to the eggs. It's almost, you say, like the hatchery of this whole process.
Exactly.
The black soldier fly lives to reproduce. It grows to 5,000 times its body weight in just under 2 weeks. A fish would take 18 months to do the same. That means more food faster.
Everything starts here with the babies. You can see it moves. That are...
No, are they moving right now?
Yeah, it's the neonates.
What? Oh, that's a trip. That's a trip to look at.
These baby flies eat byproducts from a nearby wheat factory. As they fatten, they mature into teens.
So in just 8 days, those tiny, tiny flies have become teenagers. Here they are.
And after just another 8 days, they're adults.
Oh, they're a lot more active now. You can feel them in your hand. Oh, it's a very weird tickling sensation. Ooh, really reminds you that they're bugs when you hold them.
When those adult larvae die, their bodies are separated into solids and fats. The solids are ground into a protein used in fish meal. The fats become an oil used in feed for chickens and pigs. The bug feces are also collected and used as a fertilizer on the same wheat field that produces the bug's feed. It's a circular, waste-free system.
I think the benefit of insect production versus traditional livestock is speed, space, efficiency. And we're talking about taking things of no value and creating value.
Dr. Jeffrey Toberlin has been studying the black soldier fly for decades. He says using insects as feed is poised to become a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Are black soldier flies safe to eat?
If they follow the regulations that are currently in place, yes.
NovaFeed also grows some of their larvae to full term. Those flies reproduce and make the next generation of bugs.
So come in fast with us.
The moment of truth had arrived. I was going in.
I don't know, am I ready? Let's do it, I'm ready, I'm ready. Come. We are standing in a room full of flies. The flies are on our camera lens right now. It might seem bizarre, but really what's in this room right now could be life-changing. So much, in fact, that there is so much top secret IP in this industry. We can't show half of what's in this room on camera.
For our final stop, we go up and up and up to the heart of the operation.
Right now, we're kind of at the farm, is that right? So
exactly.
Where the fly meat, the larvae are being fattened up before eventually they become those end products.
Exactly. Well, at the end of the process, the larvae will be transformed directly into oil and proteins.
But what's different about this farm is the insects are stacked on top of each other. Studies show insect farms can use 10% of the land and produce 1% of the emissions compared to livestock farms. Standing here, you really feel what a vertical farm is. Yeah. There's 10 stories of flies being grown on top of each other.
So it makes a lot of savings in terms of fields, in terms of energy. So it's a game-changing option. Huh?
But NovaFeed wants to do more than feed livestock.
Hello, bonjour!
Clemens and Charlotte started giving their dogs pet food made from NovaFeed flies a few months ago.
Sit. Paw. Nice to meet you, Tigger. Good job.
They both work at the company and say a big reason they switched was the environmental benefits insects offer over traditional pet food ingredients like palm, soy, and livestock. In the U.S. alone, 20% of farmed land animals are used to feed our pets.
And what do you guys think of the dog food?
Does adding insects to animal feed or pet food, does it make those products cheaper?
The cost of production is still relatively high, and a major goal of the industry today is how to drive costs down so it is competitive with other ingredients. We can only use certain things to grow the black soldier fly. But as we learn more through research, government investment, we find out how we can relax those regulations and include different feedstocks, we can grow more.
That's what NovaFeed has been experimenting with too. Ode and her team built an R&D facility in Illinois to test whether, like the wheat fields in France, the cornfields of America can feed and be fertilized by the flies.
Does it look like you'll be able to do this with corn in America?
Yes,
oh, interesting.
Indeed. We'll be able to use this with corn. This is the magic of the black soldier fly. You can feed it basically with anything.
I think we're about to have not to have a renaissance, but a diversification, where the industry is going to be so much more than just feed.
This little fly has infinite potential. And who knows, the nutrient-rich insect may just be our next superfood as well.
So much innovation. Our thanks to Maggie Rulli for that. Coming up, the garbage company that saved one woman from the nightmare of having thrown away a winning lottery ticket. And my conversation with legendary actor Willem Dafoe about his new film, Late Fame. President Trump is once again trying to restrict birthright citizenship in the United States. In the Oval Office today, the president signed 2 new executive orders. One tries to narrow who meets the criteria for birthright citizenship, and another to ban what is described as birth tourism. In a landmark ruling in June, the Supreme Court struck down an earlier executive order to eliminate birthright citizenship, calling that order unconstitutional under the 14th Amendment. Why one fan is suing the Yankees for $10 million. The famous gas station chain suing a small store for their look-alike logo. And the journey one woman took digging through trash to find her winning lotto ticket. These stories and much more in tonight's Rundown. A close call in Ohio caught on camera. We see a person standing beside a broken down car in the emergency shoulder with oncoming traffic traveling in the shoulder. The first car changes lanes, but the car behind speeds straight toward them. The person only managed to escape by leaping onto the concrete barrier. The driver said they couldn't merge out of the shoulder in time.
Oh, there was the bat.
A fan is suing the New York Yankees for $10 million, saying she was hit in the head by a bat that flew into the stands. The incident happened in June when the bat flew out of the hands of a Cleveland Guardians player and flew over the protective netting. The fan claims she suffered permanent injuries. ABC News reached out to the Yankees for comment, but has not heard back. Buc-ee's gas station is suing a small corner store in Cincinnati called Beaver's Mini Mart, claiming that customers may be confused by their logo, which features a smiling beaver. Though unlike the chain, the Mini Mart has no gas pumps and is miles from the highway. To lend some support to the small store, the apparel brand Cindy Shirts is now selling special T-shirts and hats to support Beaver's Mini Mart. Fox appears to have blocked the NFL's effort to renegotiate a massive rights deal. The NFL has reportedly been in discussions with many of its rights partners about updating its current broadcast and streaming contracts. The CEO of Fox, Lachlan Murdoch, announced today that Fox's current deal with the National Football League will remain through the end of the 2029 season, despite a clause in the contract which allows for the NFL to update terms with its media partners to match current market levels. Rihanna is back to work.
Work, 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 work. You see me heavy work, 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 work. You see me.
Her partner A$AP Rocky revealed on a podcast that the Grammy Award-winning singer and makeup mogul is back in the studio. After being asked about a potential new album, he simply replied that his partner was, quote, cooking, and quickly added that he would get in trouble for saying anything at all. This year marks a decade since the singer last released a full studio album. One woman's treasure is another woman's trash. Garbage workers helped retrieve a woman's winning lottery ticket of $1.16 million. The woman from Italy said the ticket was thrown out by mistake. To help find it, she contacted the garbage company in her town, and they took pity on her. Workers spent hours digging through tons of trash, and guess what? They found it. She cried when they told her, and she promised to cover the cost of all that searching. The past is past, but if we remember all the things we were meant to do and never did, what does that say about the life we have lived? In Late Fame, Willem Dafoe plays Ed Saxberger, a forgotten poet who must grapple with this question. When a group of young writers discovers his work, they hail him as a literary genius, but as his world opens up again, he's forced to ask whether the admiration is real or whether he's chasing an illusion. We spoke with Willem Dafoe about the film earlier this week. Let's take a look.
So here's where he writes.
Not yet.
But you did write, and you will again.
I don't know.
You think that now, but you don't know how the fame will affect you.
Fame?
Yeah, fame.
Don't put the cart before the horse.
Four-time Academy Award nominee Willem Dafoe. Welcome back to Prime.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, so let's start off with your character, Ed. He really hasn't cut himself off from people, and yet he feels that he's drifted away from human connection. Why do you think that story resonates with so many people?
Well, it's more about, you know, there are different stages in life, and I relate to this because the character came to New York basically at the same time I did. And so I project my experience onto him, sort of. He was there to be at readings, to write poetry, to hang out with these people that turned him on. And then the scene kind of went away from him. He got practical and couldn't find a way to sustain himself economically, so he took this job. And then the poetry kind of went away. And he's a guy that lives he doesn't have much of a sentimental life, but he's solitary, he has friends. He seems fine. And then this group of young poets come that kind of put all this praise and flattery on him and invite him to drop by, and he does, and he starts to hang out with these people, and there's a shift there, and he starts to consider his life in a different way.
What about his story allowed you to tell it with such empathy rather than really a symbol of regret?
Well, it's not really regret. You know, I think there's a couple things that I recognize. It's like the flattery and the attention brings him back to kind of looking back, not so much to recapturing something or pursuing fame as a time when he was younger, that energy. And I think he's kind of I mean, this is interpretation and I probably shouldn't get into it, but it's a cautionary tale about, you know, becoming the person that people want you to be rather than being your own person. Because he starts to, it's natural when you get older to look back, but he starts thinking, oh, maybe this is a possibility. Maybe I could return to that life of doing poetry.
This film also becomes a conversation really between the different generations of artists. And you mentioned a line while we were talking just a little while ago that you actually put into the movie.
Right. I say, I was always the youngest person in every group, and then one day I became the oldest person. And that really happened to me. I mean, this movie is not about me, but there were a lot of points of reference that I felt deeply about. You know, so much has changed. New York has changed. These young people have changed, and you see that in this movie, even when he considers going back to writing poetry. These people study. I arrived in New York, and Saxberger probably did too, at a time when there was this kind of amateur aesthetic. There were people that weren't trained to do this, but they were pursuing these things. I mean, the life downtown, I knew all kinds of people that didn't go to school to be painters or didn't go to school to be musicians. They were kind of self-taught.
Your director, Kent Jones, said something very interesting about your technique allows you to let yourself disappear. Explain what you think he means by that. It seems like quite a compliment.
It is. No, that sounds nice, and it's what you try to do. You don't always do it, but the whole idea, I think, is sometimes you want to leave your impulses, your feelings, you want to consider another set of circumstance really deeply, and somehow you can't serve your likes, the things you want to do. You've got to find the trigger to imagine another life that you could have. And that's the really secret to, I think, to pretending and to committing to trying to inhabit these characters. Because it's not an interpretation. You're not trying to tell people about these people. You're trying to have an experience, and that experience you want to share. So it has to be authentic, and something really has to happen to you. And to do that, you have to leave yourself behind. Otherwise, it becomes kind of self-serving.
But when you talk about performing arts, obviously this movie arrives really at a time when people are questioning what's going to become of art, really.
Yeah, that's a good question.
With regard to AI and all the changes with technology. But Do you feel that there is something still that's so authentic about art that only people can make?
Absolutely. I mean, for example, the theater experience. It's really problematic as far as economics and how people getting to the theater and how expensive theater is and how hard it is to develop. And there's lots of things. People are all on their devices. But I think when you're present for an event, when it's happening with you, you take it on in a different way. It becomes much more personal. And I don't want to sound like an old crank. There's great things about technology, but the truth is I miss, there's a whole generation that grew up with devices, and they have a different way of relating to each other, as far as just tactily and biologically, and we're animals, and we're social animals. And I always think, the beauty of the thing that keeps us from, the depressing fact that the second that we're born, we're going to die, is we walk each other home, we help each other. And if that isn't very direct and felt, living becomes something else.
Perhaps they'll see this movie and it'll strike a chord in them. Willem Dafoe, thank you so much for coming by. You can see Late Fame in theaters starting tomorrow. That is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Have a great night.